Thanks, everybody, for coming. Obviously, we're here to celebrate Snit. Really appreciate the players that came out. I know the offseason started and everyone that's here today. Just from a personal standpoint, I've said this many times. When I joined the organization, I'd never met Snit. First time I met him was actually at my press conference, and he came to support me. And the partnership, the friendship, the success we've had together has been one of the great joys and honors of my career. And to be here today and to get to continue to work with Snit in a front office role, we get to continue that partnership and relationship is going to be a privilege, certainly. So with that, Snit, I want to say congrats to an amazing run, amazing career, and hopefully a lot more years of success here.
No, he is not fired. He is transitioning to an advisory role. Please make sure that you get it right if you're going to talk about Brian Snitker. But the biggest news of the day, in case you missed it, maybe you've been busy today on this hump day edition of Wire to Wire, Brian Snitker out as Braves manager. That audio you just heard was from Alex Anthopoulos. How about it, Braves fans? Boy, oh boy, I have got to know how you're feeling on this Wednesday. Just huge news to start the show today. I had not planned on leading the show with Brian Snitker conversation. However, when something like this happens mid-morning, you shift your focus, you shift your attention, and you lead with it. Welcome into Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this hump day edition of the show. Good to see 39 of you Tolos already watching the show between Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Appreciate you. DB, Dewey already chatting it up in the stream. But Braves fans, the day has come. The time has come, and I have got to tell you, it's good news for me. It's good news for me on this Wednesday. You say, Cole, how could it be good news? Brian Snitker won a World Series in Atlanta. Yes, he did win a World Series in Atlanta. And so did all the other coaches that won championships in their sports that were also fired years or even months after. Now, I know Brian Snitker was not fired. We addressed that, right? However, Brian Snitker is out as manager of the Atlanta Braves. And however you want to classify out, you can classify it however you like, but he's gone. He's no longer the manager. He's in an advisory role all of a sudden, whatever the heck that means, right? But look, the bottom line is the Atlanta Braves, with the talent they had, Brian Snitker teams as of recent, were not getting it done. What a great novel idea, Clemson fans. If your team's not getting it done, maybe it is time to make a change. I'm not saying you need to fire Dabo Swinney, but a little bit of a similar situation, right? I know Brian Snitker and Dabo Swinney are way different in age, but come on, Brian Snitker won a championship in 2021. How can you get rid of the guy? How can you possibly say you want Brian Snitker gone after him bringing a championship, something a rarity for the Atlanta Braves, right? Well, the Braves decided today, or in the past few days and weeks, that it was time for Brian Snitker to transition to a new role, a la, hey, we're not going to fire you, but we have this great role for you as an advisor. We would love for you to be an advisor for us here at the Atlanta Braves. Well, what do you mean an advisor? I'm the manager. Yeah, we know you're the manager, but we think it'd be best for you to be an advisor. Maybe Brian Snitker said, hey, you know what? My time's come to an end. This guy has been around for a long time. This guy has been around the Braves organization for a long time. We know that. But the bottom line is a change was needed. A new voice was needed. The Atlanta Braves were not living up to the standard. There was way too much talent on that roster, and Brian Snitker is no longer the manager of the Atlanta Braves. Tolos, want to hear from you, especially if you are an Atlanta Braves fan at 844-326-3663. Already a nice chat going on in the stream. Well, I'll get to that, I promise. But I want to hear what Brian Snitker had to say, and I want you, Tolos, to hear what Snitker had to say. This audio from just a couple of hours ago, very, very new. Here was Brian Snitker after the announcement.
And I'd like to call up Terry to make a few comments.
First, we have to hear from Terry. Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, thank you. Am I on here?
Yeah, you're on. Mike's on, Terry. Start talking.
Today, we celebrate and honor not only one of the most accomplished managers in the history of our franchise, but also one of the finest people to ever wear the Braves uniform, Brian Snitker.
All right. Let's fast forward. We don't want to hear from Terry. We don't want to hear from Terry. On
behalf of the Braves organization, I want to say thank you, Brian. Thank you for your decades of service and for your leadership.
Here we go. Let's go to Brian.
What?
I'm telling you. I'm sorry about that, Tolos. I had the audio pulled up, and that was my bad. Let's try again.
Appreciate you being here. Just give me a minute. 3 years ago, I signed the extension, and this, when I signed it, this was to be my last year, and I was kind of excited about it because I thought, well, it's going to put a reality to it, and I was really good with it. I was very appreciative that honestly, I never thought I'd manage one day in the major leagues, let alone 10 years. I never thought I'd hoist a trophy. Or be around a group of guys that, that makes this so special. Because, it's about the players. And we've been fortunate here to have probably the greatest group of players, coaches, the whole building is, and I said this after we won the World, it literally takes a whole building to do something special. And I've been blessed to be around great people within the Atlanta Braves organization. Everybody in that clubhouse, the player, it's about the players. God, the relationships and the friendships that I'll have the rest of my life for that group or the players, and it's so special. I'm excited to continue to be a part, and I saw a couple of them the other day, and it's like, you're not getting rid of me. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be in spring training. I'm excited about this new role. Until, and this is the truth, until like the last 3 weeks of this season, I know you can ask the coaches, I talked about, this being my last year, but when you're sitting in this seat, you're in the heat of the battle. I don't know, and I said, after I'm going to need a little time after that last out to really decide what I want to do. And, I don't think, and it was after I got home and I got to decompress a little bit that, I did decide that this is the right move. Because I said, if you wait to retire till you're ready to retire, you never will. And I figured that out. And I know in my medias, when I was asked, it's like, I've never been through this. I hated that I lost my biggest supporter, my go-to guy. I lost him, but I could still go sit with him and talk to him, but I couldn't, I needed that. probably more this past month than I ever have in all the years that I've been managing. So you know what? In my mind, I'm ready for this next step.
So that is audio just a couple of hours ago, Tolos. I know that was long, but it's fresh. It's new. A lot of you, most of you have not heard that yet. There is more, a few more minutes there from Brian Snitker's retirement. Well, I guess it's kind of retirement since he's transitioning to an advisor role. But if you just tuned into the show, welcome into Wire to Wire. Big news today. Brian Snitker out as Braves manager. Want to hear from you, Tolos. We're going to get to the comments on the stream because there's a lot of conversation already happening there. But Brian Snitker, just a look at what he did for the Atlanta Braves. 811 and 668, a winning percentage, a clip of 548 in the regular season. He ranks third all time in Braves franchise history in wins, behind Bobby Cox and Frank Salee. His 548 winning percentage is among the higher ones in modern Braves history. So we all know the accomplishments, especially what happened in 2021. Total postseason record, Brian Snitker, 24 wins, 23 losses. He led the Braves to 6 NL East division titles during his tenure. The Braves made 7 straight postseason appearances under him from 2018 to 2024 before missing in 2025. NL Manager of the Year in 2018. He has the second best win total behind Bobby Cox in the modern era post 1901, and his 548 winning percentage is one of the top winning percentages for a Braves era during that modern era. So one of the best Braves managers of all time is out as the manager. Tolos, again, if you're a Braves fan, want to hear from you at 844-326-3663. That's the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Phone lines also open at that same number. I'll tell you this, my thoughts, my opinion, I cannot deny what Brian Snitker did for this franchise. I believe in this organization, I believe Brian Snitker was the right hire at the right time. I 100% believe that. You talk about a guy who has dedicated his entire life to this organization. That's incredible. That's incredible, and you've got to respect him for that. However, what you have to look at is what has Brian Snitker done in recent years? What has Brian Snitker done in recent years? Brian Snitker in recent years has not been the best voice to lead this organization. Whether you like it or not, he hasn't. And the Braves felt like that this was the final year. He talked about it in that very moment. It just so happened that this year, 2025, was already marked as maybe the final year unless something drastic happened for Brian Snitker. We know that they missed the postseason. I just talked about how many straight times Brian Snitker teams made the postseason. But the reality is, I believe, a lot of Braves fans believe that the new voice was needed inside that organization. Tolo's out there, a big time interview coming up at 4:22 p.m. Brandon Leak, home team Brandon Leak of 680, The Fan in Atlanta. He's got the pretty much the inside scoop. He is on this as good as anyone. He'll join the show at 4:22 to continue the conversation. But the bottom line is Brian Snitker is out, and I believe in my mind it was the right decision. I was hoping that we would not go into another season with Brian Snitker as the manager. Now, does that mean it's all on Snitker? No. I have not been pleased in the past year and a half to 2 years with the moves or lack thereof that Alex Anthopoulos has made. I don't think Alex Anthopoulos post-2021, I guess we can call it post the 2021 miracle all-star break, I don't think Alex Anthopoulos has done enough for this team, especially during the offseason and free agency. I am glad, this might sound a little too much, but I am glad to hear this news. This news made my day. I believe ultimately, like I said yesterday and have said multiple times on this show, there's far too much talent on this Atlanta Braves roster to completely overhaul it and start over, start with the farm system, blow it up. There's way too much talent in my mind. I don't think they're close to a World Series, but I also think there's too much talent to blow it up. And I think the right voice with the right guys can have this organization right back on track like they have been in the past few years. I really do. On the stream, 67 of you Tolos watching. Let's see what the conversation is there. You can watch the show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Dewey starts us off. Or actually, Dan B says Tolo. Then Dewey gets in and says, so basically they told him you can stay employed, but you can't be the manager no more. Let's see. Dewey also says the Braves' poor season falls on AA, no off-season moves and no meaningful trades, etc. Madcraft says he was always going to stay in the organization, and I think a lot of this was mutual either way. Change can be great with him remaining with the team. Dewey says Terry and Alex A need to be fired. They are the problem. Cheap, cheap, cheap. JB says, so a new Braves manager, that'll be a breath of fresh air. Snitker has been with the Braves organization as long as I've been alive, 49 years. And JB, you're right. That's no exaggeration. He has been with the Braves organization for a very, very long time. MD75 on YouTube says, I like this. Can he coach O-line? Asking for the Gamecocks. Funny, MD75. Dewey says Brian Snitker was dealt a bad hand. There's a reason why AA was run out of Toronto. Philip Rollins on the Facebook stream says, when the upset picks start, I got a good one that may shock some. Well, Philip, can't wait to see it. Upset Picks opens at 4 p.m. If you send it in outside of those hours, it will not be a valid pick. The floodgates are going to open in a major way at 4 o'clock today. So in less than an hour, get ready. The Upset Picks Challenge is going to come at you, and it is going to come at you fast. T-Experience on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line asking if I sound elated, snickering and all about Brian's retirement. Yes, I'm elated. T-Experience. I am very, very elated. Look, no disrespect to Brian Snitker. None. But the reality is it was time. Most people felt like it was time for a new voice in that locker room. You can't deny what he's done. He's been there a long time. He's won a lot of baseball games. In 2021, we all know what he did and how that season ended. We'll never forget it. But just because you win doesn't mean that you're the right guy for the rest of time, for the rest of being, right, Clemson fans? Just because you win doesn't mean you're going to win for the rest of time. And Brian Snitker, I felt like his time was coming up, and I believe they made this decision at the right time. Jersey Joe on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line says, who cares about the Braves? Let's go Mets. Oh, I don't know, Jersey Joe. Just probably 75% of the upstate, if you polled who their baseball team was, they'd probably be 75% Braves fans. FYI, this is Braves country. By the way, Jersey Joe, who do the Mets play tonight? Let me know. 844-326-3663. Philip Rollins says, Braves are making the right move with him stepping down. Snitker checked out early in the season. Then you can tell in some of his comments and in the pressers, in the moves, he was mad during games. Injuries, he was done early. Yeah, I'm with you, Philip. Sorry, I couldn't make out the last part of that text. Madcraft says, I'm writing a blank check to Bruce Bochy. So now the conversation turns to who would you hire? Who do you hire? Madcraft, look, here's the deal. I am a big Bruce Bochy fan. I am. I think Bruce Bochy is on or near the Mount Rushmore of managers in the MLB. I mean, how many managers have won world championships at different spots? at different stops, right? Bruce Bochy has. He did it in his first year with the Texas Rangers just a few years ago, right? However, I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know if a 70-year-old Bruce Bochy's the right guy. I just don't. And I'm not saying old guys can't coach baseball. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just thinking that you might need a fresh, new, younger voice. Baseball's changing just like any other sport. You had a 70-year-old Brian Snitker. Are you really going to go get a 70-year-old Bruce Bochy? I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a good hire. I just feel like it might be a settling hire. You might be settling a little bit with Bruce Bochy. I like the guy. I like the guy a lot. Like I said, I've got him up there near the Mount Rushmore of managers. He's that good. And I think Bruce Bochy is as respected as any manager in baseball. I don't know if Bruce Bochy is the right guy for the Braves at this time. 8 years ago, maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not saying you got to go get somebody super young. I'm not saying you got to go get a Sean McVay a la on the baseball diamond, right? I just don't know if that's the guy. I don't know, man. Do you consider him? Maybe. Does he want to coach anymore? I don't know. I don't know. If Bruce Bochy's 70 years old, does he want to coach another game? That's a good question. I love Bruce Bochy. I just don't know that he's the right hire at this time for the Atlanta Braves. So we'll continue the conversation. Tolo's a lot more to get into. Again, home team Brandon Leak from 680, The Fan in Atlanta, joining us at 422 to really take a deep dive into this news today that Brian Snitker is no longer the general manager, or the manager of the Atlanta Braves. Big news to lead the show today. Tolo's in the very next segment. We do this every now and then. Diesel and I do. And because I'm solo today, I'm feeling kind. I'm feeling extra kind. I am going to allow you, Tolos, to dictate where we go in the very next segment. You have two options. We get back to the Clemson conversation because I talked to an assistant coach today at another university in this state, and I've got some interesting perspective on what Dabo Swinney said yesterday about the program being in the best spot it's ever been in, arguably. We can either go back into that conversation or we can go around the NFL in a now that we know what we know type segment. You Tolos out there, you get to choose. Whoever gets more votes, that's the topic we go to. 844-326-3663. Also on the stream, do you Tolos want to talk NFL, or do you Tolos want to talk Clemson and Dabo and the best program in college football? You choose next. Well, don't ever call me bossy or say that I never let you Tolos have an opinion or a say on how this show goes. In the very last segment, I said, look, we'll either talk Clemson, we'll dive back into the conversation about the Tigers from yesterday, or we'll go around the NFL. I left it up to you, and let's see which topic won. Let's see who voted for what. I've already counted up on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. Unfortunately, on the text line, we're tied. So no sway there. So we now go to the stream, and the stream will dictate whether we talk Clemson or NFL in this segment. JB says, oh, he's going back to hiring the Tennessee coach for the Atlanta Braves job. That'd be interesting. Dewey says go NFL. Kane says Dewey sucks, so talk Clemson. Philip Rollins saying NFL, please. As a Florida State fan, I'm sick of hearing about Dabo. Honestly, I know we're in Clemson, but Rob Brown has beat them to death, and it seems to be all we talk about. Well, Philip, yeah, it is a lot of what we talk about with us being right here in the upstate. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot of Clemson. We talk a lot of South Carolina, too. We'll talk more. Who'd you say you were a fan of? Florida State? We'll talk a little Florida State. And DB also goes NFL, and Madcraft does as well. So NFL we go. Now that we know what we know when it comes to the NFL, where do we stand? Where do you, Tolo, stand on the NFL season and what's remaining? Number one, I want to be very clear. I love college football. I love high school football, but I also am passionately in love with the NFL. And man, I have loved this season. I think there have been surprises. I think there's been some sneaky teams and some unfortunately costly injuries that have kind of derailed our preseason predictions. I'll start with this. I don't know if anybody saw the Baltimore Ravens 2025 season starting like it has. They're now 1-3 on the year. They now face the 1-3 Houston Texans on Sunday. So if I would have told you, Tolos out there that are NFL fans, hey, on what's Sunday's date, by the way? Let's see. October the 5th. On October the 5th, the Baltimore Ravens and Houston Texans are going to play. You would probably say, okay, that'll probably be a big game. Two teams in the same conference. That might be for playoff positioning, even though it's early in the season, right? That's what we would probably all have said. However, both teams are 1-3. And to throw this even crazier, and I know Lamar's dealing with a hammy right now, Houston's favored on the road. Both teams 1-3. Playing on the first weekend of October is not how any of us saw the season going for the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. I love Lamar Jackson. I love Derrick Henry, and I think they've got some explosive weapons. I also love Zay Flowers. But them starting 1-3, and you can throw out that Lamar's not been fully healthy or whatever, it is an utter failure. This 2025 season has now become a failure for the Baltimore Ravens. That just can't happen. It just can't. And the fact that Baltimore, I mean, do you know how many teams in the NFL would want Lamar Jackson leading their team? And you know how many teams in the NFL would want to hand the football off to Derrick Henry? And how many teams in the NFL would want to throw the football to Zay Flowers? Or how many owners would want to have John Harbaugh coaching their team? I mean, what on earth are we doing here? It is an utter and complete failure, what we've seen in Baltimore this season. And I love Lamar Jackson, so it pains me to say, but it's been an absolute failure. And then Sunday morning, how about this new news today? I'll talk about this in the Daily Wires coming up in the very next segment. But Sunday morning, we're going to see Minnesota and Cleveland. Well, if you didn't see this earlier today, if you haven't heard this news, regarding the Cleveland Browns, there has been a quarterback change. And no, it is not the quarterback who has the famous last name that you might have thought would be named the starter. So breaking news today, the Cleveland Browns are benching veteran quarterback Joe Flacco and will turn to rookie Dylan Gabriel as their starter for Sunday's game in London against the Minnesota Vikings. Joe Flacco not getting it done in 2025, right? Well, you say, Cole, what's the guy done? What has Joe Flacco done to deserve to be benched, right? He's been with all these different teams now. He's been an okay quarterback, but this season, just not getting it done. A sub-60 completion percentage right now, 58.1, 93 of 160 through 4 games, 815 yards, only 2 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So a 2 touchdown to 6 interception ratio right now, a QBR of 27. A QBR of 27, which, by the way, for Joe Flacco in his long career from 2008 all the way to 2025, the lowest QBR that Joe Flacco's ever had as the starter, ever. So he's abysmal. He's old. It's time to move on from Joe Flacco. I don't know why Cleveland ever thought to begin with after the 2023 season that Joe Flacco was still a reliable option. He gets shipped to Indianapolis, and we didn't see a great season last. I mean, he threw for 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, nothing to brag about, right? On a bad Indianapolis Colts football team. So shame on the Cleveland Browns, first of all, for thinking that this guy still had something in him. I mean, what are we doing here? Joe Flacco benched. The Cleveland Browns will now turn to rookie Dylan Gabriel as their starter for Sunday's game. Flacco will serve as Cleveland's backup. So rookie Shedeur Sanders will remain the third-string quarterback. That was a storyline that we followed all offseason. The draft, obviously so much hype around Shedeur Sanders and the possibility of him playing for a good team. And then what happened in the draft with him falling as low as he did. Look, I think it's a fascinating storyline, and a lot of you out there can get wrapped up in this saga of Shedeur Sanders not being treated fairly. But the reality is, last name aside, Shedeur Sanders must not be doing enough to even win the backup job. Again, Shedeur Sanders must not be doing enough to even win the backup job. Joe Flacco benched after an abysmal start, and he's still the backup. You're telling me that you're not doing enough in practice, and I know all the reporters are going to run to Shedeur Sanders asking the questions, but you're not doing enough in practice to be named the backup? How do you expect to be named the starter? I think we're looking at this saga of Shedeur Sanders in the NFL as a blip on the radar. I know it's a major talking point right now, but I just don't see 5 years from now Shedeur Sanders being a player, a quarterback, a difference maker in the National Football League. I don't know if Shedeur Sanders will be on a roster 5 years from now. In fact, I don't think he should be. If you can't win the backup quarterback job in Cleveland, the Cleveland Browns, you can't win. You can't get from 3-2 competing with Joe Flacco, and maybe in the weeks to come, he'll beat out Joe Flacco. But come on. Are we really asking the question why Shedeur's not playing if he can't even win the number 2 job? So now the Browns turn to Dylan Gabriel. Browns coach Kevin Stefanski, who noted the decision to bench Flacco and start Gabriel was his. He said it was best for the football team. Flacco started Cleveland's first 4 games. Again, as I noted, he's thrown 6 interceptions, including 2 during Sunday's first half in the 34-10 loss to the Detroit Lions. Gabriel did replace Flacco in the final series in Detroit, but it wasn't at that point. It was not enough. So I just got an alert on my phone from ESPN, and evidently Shedeur Sanders was asked about this in the locker room. And evidently Shedeur Sanders was left speechless after this segment was made. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not saying that he should be absolutely just dismissed and that we should quit talking about the guy. And by the way, caller, I just lost you. If you want to call back in, you can. Phone lines are open. I might have hit the button wrong. I apologize if I did. 844-326-3663. I just don't know, man. If you can't win the number 2 job, what do you expect? Are you playing? Are you competing your butt off in practice? I evidently not. I mean, what information? We're going off of what we have. We're going off of the information we have, right? Let's see. On the stream, Philip says Sanders' attitude and the way he acts and holds himself hurts if he wants to be humble up and buckle down and learn the offense to give himself a chance. Madcraft says, I just got an alert that read, oh, you got the same alert that I did, Madcraft. We both got the same alert at the same time. Kane says the Lions got Flacco fired, LOL. I guess in a way they did get Flacco benched. Not a good day. And look, Flacco's old, man. This guy, I don't know why they wait. Like going back to the whole thing in New York, why waste your time with Russell Wilson? You're digging yourself in a hole. Then you say, hey, Jackson Dart, come get us out of this hole. Now Cleveland's dug themselves in the hole, and they're saying, hey, Dylan Gabriel, come get us out of this hole. I think it's just poor management. I think it's poor coaching. If you feel like that guy gives you the best chance, play him week 1. Play him week 1. To heck with this, he's not ready stuff. Either he's the guy or he's not. Let's go to the phone lines. 844-326-3663. Who we got?
T-Experience.
T-Experience, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? Just wanted to chit-chat about this whole Shedeur Sanders thing. It basically started, I guess you would say, the fireball over this big explosion came from a loudmouth, former NFL coach, Rex Ryan. You know, decent coach in his own right. But, again, the information has just been spitting and being spewed at Shedeur. We know where it's coming from, and we know pretty much who is directed at because of prime time and his whole persona. We get that, but dealing with factual information is where this has to be as far as media goes. Because again, we only have what we have based off, even like you just mentioned. But is it factual information? But again, everybody has their own opinion. That's great, but dealing with facts is where it has to be. That's real, true media, not just based off of he say, she say, and no factual information, nothing to back it. But again, with Rex Ryan trying to say that he's not practicing, nobody in the 5 years or however long it's been from him being in college and, coming up to Colorado, to the NFL, not one person has said or has ever come out and said that Shedeur is not doing his homework. He's not practicing. He's not doing that. The man, even in the preseason, first on the field, last to leave, practice, start taking extra reps with third-string receivers. Like, if that was the problem, if that was the case, would not Kevin Stefanski come out at some point his own self and say, hey, this kid's, he's a bum, this, that, and the other? No, that has not been the case. So, again, we're not dealing with facts. It's just everybody's opinion of the situation, and it's not good.
So, T-Experience, I think you brought up some good points there. I would say this. Here's the way I look at it. I base my opinion off of the facts of what the coaching staff is doing. Now, I want to be very clear. Do I believe that it's the best decision? I'm not saying that I agree with what Stefanski's doing. I'm just saying as a radio host, as a media man, whatever, you have to go off of what you said, the facts. And the facts are that Kevin Stefanski hasn't even seen enough to make this guy QB2. Am I wrong there?
No. Even the preseason, if everybody had equal amount of playing time, and Shedeur, he had a good game. I think it was that very first preseason game.
Right.
He kind of lit it up.
Yeah.
But we didn't see anything since. injuries. Dylan himself was injured. And you got the what was the other bum that they had that they let go from Pittsburgh?
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. Yeah, small hands. So even with him, being injured, that should have opened up the door for Shedeur or Dylan to even just take the starting job. Neither one of them did it because they're rookies. Let's give them time. And to say that, you don't even think. And I can see where you're going with it. 5 years from now, you don't think he'll be a player? I absolutely disagree.
Okay.
Shedeur has something special about him, but when he gets the chance and the opportunity, he's going to take it.
You think he's in the wrong situation right now?
It'll last. Oh, yeah. And part of that is due to his own because what came out, a month ago with the Eagles and the Ravens, saying, hey, Shedeur, we're looking at drafting you, blah, blah, blah. And now you look, Lamar Jackson hurt, 1 to 2 weeks or however long it is. That's an opportunity that Shedeur could have taken. But I get, not wanting to sit behind a Lamar or Jalen Hurts. But in my opinion, I would have sat. I would have carried the clipboard. I would have carried the lunch pail. I would have did anything just to be able to learn from them. But when you want your chance and you want your shine, and the way that Shedeur is brought up under, Dion, they have that bravado. They have that swag. They have that mentality about, hey, I'm the best. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that. But again, it all come out in the wash, as they say.
Hey, T-Experience, thanks for the call, man. Really good stuff. I think that's a great call. I think you're right on that last part about just the way that Shedeur has gone about this process. And to your point about Baltimore or Philadelphia, I agree with you. I think in the NFL and maybe even in life, sometimes we're all guilty of trying to force ourselves into a position that we want, right? And maybe Shedeur Sanders is guilty. And I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's Dad. I think maybe Shedeur Sanders is guilty of trying to force his hand instead of allowing the NFL's hand to come to him, right? He kind of tried to force his hand. And look, I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders is the only player in the history of the league that's done that. I'm just saying that sometimes you look at instances where you go where you go, you're available when you're available. In the NFL, it's a strange lady. Sometimes it will extend its hand to you, and bam, there's the opportunity. Thanks for the call, T-Experience. Really good stuff. We've got to hit our daily wires. A quick break here so we can get back and do that next on the Fan Upstate. Tolos, we will not have time right now to get to our daily wires, but we will push them to later in the show. And look, anytime that we have to push a segment, we love it because that means we had good conversation in the last segment. T-Experience, appreciate the phone call. Man, really good stuff. I love letting you, Tolos, go on your phone calls as long as they're good, Dewey. But look, I mean, T-Experience, any other Tolos out there, you bring a good call to the show, and I'll let you go. I'll let you ramble. And I'm not saying T-Experience was rambling. I'll let you go on and give your point. I thought he gave a really good point there about Shedeur Sanders. And ultimately, you know, I hope for the guy he does land on his feet. I hope he does find his way. I just don't know that he's going about it the right way. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong in the long run. Maybe 5 years from now, Shedeur Sanders is, you know, playing for a Super Bowl. I go off of what I've seen. And again, to be very clear, that doesn't mean Kevin Stefanski knows what he's doing either, right? The Browns haven't been notorious for making good decisions at quarterback. So let's not act like that's the case, to be fair, right? I mean, they've struggled specifically at the quarterback position. So we shall see. I'm never, ever, ever going to sit here and want someone's career to come to an end. I don't care if he's a 10-year vet or a rookie. I think ultimately you in the NFL, when you make it to that league, when you make it to that stage, you are given an opportunity. You've got to make the most of the opportunity. So we'll see if Shedeur Sanders is able to do so. And we'll also see what Dillon Gabriel does. Maybe Dillon Gabriel goes out there and, you know, craps the bed, and Shedeur's the next guy here in a few weeks. But I guess the jury is still out per se. A little MLB wildcard scoring update for you before we run to a break. The Padres lead the Cubs 1-0 in the bottom of the third. The Guardians lead the Tigers 2-1 in the bottom of the eighth. And man, how about that Yankees-Red Sox game last night? Are you kidding me? Tolos, did you watch? That was fantastic. I mean, are you kidding me? We talked about that game a lot yesterday, and that was such a good game. I just can't understand. I cannot understand why Aaron Boone pulled Max Fried when he did. Look, he's a manager. I'm not. But you saw Boston leave their guy in, and boy, was he terrific. You saw Aaron Boone pull Max Fried, and man, unfortunately, it ended the way it did. I did feel bad for our friend, our buddy Jack Veltri, who joined us yesterday, big Yankees fan. But what a good game. I think we'll get another one tonight. Maybe Yankees tie it up 1-1. Maybe Boston comes out and puts an end to this thing. We shall see. Tolos, we are about to enter into the Upset Picks Challenge. 6 minutes. Actually, check that. 5 minutes from right now, the Upset Picks Challenge will be open. I'm solo this week. As you know, Diesel's on vacation. I am calling for the biggest turnout yet this season. Dan B's watching. Dan B, if you will, let me know what number we need to hit overall to have the biggest turnout this week. Tolos, 844-326-3663. The Upset Picks Challenge open in 5 minutes right here on the Fan Upstate. we are off, Tolos. 844-326-3663. The floodgates have opened. The Upset Picks Challenge is open, and it begins for week 6 right now. 844-FANFONE. They are already piling in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. We're going to reach an all-time high when it comes to how many picks we've had this season. Dan B on YouTube said, in week 1 after week 0, we had 170 picks made. If you subtract a few celebrity picks, I'd say approximately 160 text. So that was from week 1. So let's set a goal for 200. Can we do that, Tolos? 200 upset picks in this very segment. Not in this segment, sorry. That'd be impressive in this week's challenge. The Upset Picks Challenge. Basically, I know a lot of you Tolos are new every single day. I'm going to explain it. Basically, you choose an underdog in college football this weekend in a spread from ESPN.com. You find an underdog that you like, that you think will outright win the game, not cover the spread, outright win the game. You send that in on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, or you can call the show 844-326-3663. We need your name, the game, and the spread. The Upset Picks Challenge is open right now. Again, 844-326-3663. Make sure you put the same name that you've put all season long so Dan B can give you the points. If you hit, there's a rolling tally all season long, and the Upset Picks Challenge are the standings are on our Twitter. They're pinned to the very top. They're also on our Facebook page as well at 844-326-3663. Like I said, you can call the show as well to give your upset pick, and Dewey wants to do so on the phone lines at 844-326-3663. Do you have a winner this week, Dewey?
Yes. Well, first, I want to discuss the Brian Snitker thing real quick.
Go ahead.
All right, first of all, it's happy day. The old man is gone.
Why?
Should
What's
not
the name?
stop there. Alex Anthopoulos, you need to be fired. And then that Terry guy, he sucks too. What have the Braves? What has that front office done in the last 2 years? Yeah, great. They won the World Series in 2021. 2022 and 2023, they should have won the World Series. They won 100-something games in both years, and they were destined to win the World Series. They just couldn't get it done. That's on Brian Snitker. But there's other crap that's been going on since last year, the year and a half, 2 years. Your pitching staff gets decimated. Ronald Acuna gets out, and so on and so forth. You did nothing to replace it, and your only notable signing this year was Jerickson Profar, who went off and used drugs, got suspended for 80 games, and then came back for like a couple of weeks and just was mediocre the rest of the year. Now he goes to he's a free agent this year. Garbage. It's time to get rid of. If you want the Braves to return back to that greatness, the front office needs to go. And as far as my upset picks,
What? 1 second, Dewey. 1 second. Are you saying that Alex Anthopoulos needs to go?
yes, he's done nothing. No trade, no notable. He tried to bring back the gang last year for what? Jorge Soler and all of them, and they didn't do nothing. How many times you going to bring back Jesse Chavez? And you can bring back Charlie Morton, which that was actually a good thing, but Jesse Chavez 100 times. You did nothing to accommodate Spencer Strider's loss. Spencer Strider had an off year. He should have spent most of his year in AAA getting his arm right. Michael Harris, yeah, he had a comeback, but most of his year sucked too, and he probably got better because he knew his job was on the line. So, yeah, it falls on Alex Anthopoulos at the end of the day, and Brian Snitker was dealt a bad hand. Now, the other years where they should have won the World Series, 22 and 23, that's on Snitker.
But you
And
can't
that's
say,
where his
Dewey,
downfall-
you can't say Brian Snitker was dealt a bad hand in 2021 when he literally had the World Series handed to him at the All-Star break.
That was just luck.
Okay.
That
Gotcha.
was luck, and the Mets doing what the Mets do, and it just fell on the plate. If you get into the playoffs playing hot, you can win 70. The Braves right now can probably go win the World Series because technically they're hot. They won 10 of the last 15 games. So technically they're hot. They can go win the World Series.
All right, Dewey, you have an upset pick?
Yes. This one was pretty easy. After I wanted to go with North Carolina, but the spread is stupid and it's just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So I'm going with Vanderbilt over Alabama.
Wow.
Boom.
And the spread, Dewey?
Last I saw was 10.5.
Yeah, I think that is still correct. Dewey going
So
Vandy,
that's
10.5.
disrespectful. That's actually disrespectful to Vanderbilt, and that's why I'm picking them.
Okay.
Oh.
Dewey, thanks for the phone call. As always, I guess thanks. Back to the phone lines we go, 844-326-3663. Eric wants to chime in. What's up, Eric?
Hey, just calling in, first-time caller. Love the show. I'm echoing Dewey. I'm a Vanderbilt fan, graduated in 99, been to games
way.
against Virginia Tech, been to games against South Carolina. They've whooped that ass. And so we're going to go into Tuscaloosa, college game day. Look at the statistics. Diego Pavia today ranked number 2 QB based on efficiency QBR. They're going to beat Alabama, go to the CFP, and do some damage.
Wow.
So Vanderbilt to win. The line 10.5. It started at 12.5. Disrespectful.
I like it. And Eric, you said you're a Vandy grad?
Oh, yeah. Graduated in 99. Been going to a game every year. This year I've already been to 3 games.
No way.
UT.
And live here in the upstate?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Have you got in on the upset picks challenge yet?
No, sorry. This is my first time. I just heard it on the radio.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you
call in.
listening. So here's the deal. When you hang up, what you do is the Upset Picks Challenge. You find a game, like, for example, Vandy's a great example this weekend. You find an underdog that you think is going to outright win the game. You send that in on the text line, the same number you just called, save it in your phone, and you send in, like Dewey just did, Dewey, Vanderbilt plus 10.5 over Bama. And if it hits, you get 10.5 points added to a season rolling tally. And the Upset Picks Challenge standings are on our Facebook page and Twitter page. And it's a lot of fun, man. So when you hang up, do us a favor. We want to get as many new Tolos in as possible. And last thing, since you're new to the show, do you know what a Tolo is?
No, it's funny you asked that because I hear you guys say that all the time. And just when I got in my car, I heard it. I was like, what is a Tolo?
Look, Eric, I'm asked all the time. Anytime I'm out in public, somebody asks me, what's it? Tolo stands for turn on, leave on. That's what we ask you to do each and every day on this show from 3 to 7. And if you do it, you turn it on and leave it on, you're a Tolo. How's that?
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Have a good
man.
day.
Eric, appreciate the phone call. New listener. See, look at that. I'm telling you, Tolos, we have so many new Tolos each and every day. And appreciate you calling the show, Eric. And, man, a Vandy grad out there. I am smarter all of a sudden just from talking to Eric, right? All right, the Upset Picks Challenge is rolling right now on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line at 844-326-3663. A reminder to those on the stream, you have to send it in on the text line. A lot of you, 87 of you right now on the stream, a lot of comments as well from Dan B., Matt Kraft, Joe. You got to send in your upset picks on the text line. Joe says on Facebook, okay, Cole, forget the hot dogs. Never-ending pasta bowl at Olive Garden. I'm good for about 6 to 8 extra bowls. That's insane. I have not heard about that. Never-ending pasta bowl. Joe, sign me up. I'm all in on that one. All in. Philip Rollins on Facebook gives his pick. Philip, that's an invalid pick. You cannot give it on Facebook or the stream. You've got to text it into the show at 326-3663. You have to text or call with your upset pick. That is the only way it is valid. There's no way for us to go back on the stream and get them. All right, let's go to the text line. What? Oh, my goodness gracious, the text line blowing up. Dan, I'm going to copy these, I promise. It's hard to do it in real time when I'm solo, but I am going to copy them and paste them into your document. Kane goes Virginia versus Louisville plus 6.5. Tiger pal Rachel says Pulling Freed was so stupid. I tell my stats students all the time, statistics are not situational. Pay attention to the moment. You're right, Tiger pal Rachel. Good text, by the way. You're exactly right on that. And screw the pitch count too, right? Let him go out there till his arm falls off. This is the playoffs we're talking about. JB on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line, taking Florida over Texas, plus 6.5. Young Gravy Nuts taking West Virginia over BYU for 20.5 points. Brandon and Spartanburg going Wake Forest, plus 6.5 over Virginia Tech. For any Tolos out there that don't know how to send the text in, Brandon and Spartanburg's text is a perfect illustration. Brandon and Spartanburg dash Wake Forest plus 6.5 over Virginia Tech. We need your name, the game, and the spread. The way that Brandon put it is the best way to do so. Again, Brandon and Spartanburg, Wake Forest plus 6.5 because they're the underdog over Virginia Tech. I looked at that game, Brandon. That was one of the final games I looked at. I considered that one. I may still pick it. I hadn't made my pick yet. T Swizzle goes Boise State plus 20.5 over Notre Dame. Going for the home run ball there is T Swizzle. That's bold. He says, let's move into the top 30. That would definitely get you there. Tiger pal Rachel goes Virginia over Louisville at 6.5. Isaac goes, my upset pick this week is UAB plus 6.5 over Army. Gold Rush goes with Vanderbilt plus 10.5 over Alabama. I think that'll be a popular pick on this week's challenge by the time the week's over. I really do. I think a lot of people will choose Vandy over Alabama. Sasquatch Joe goes Wake Forest versus Virginia Tech. Wake plus 6.5. JT and Greer taking Boise State plus 20.5 over Notre Dame. J Tez going North Carolina plus 13.5. These are pouring in right now on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. Guys, we are trying to get to 200 entries this week. So if you play, get your wife, your kids, your family, your friends involved as well. I'm trying to read them, but every time I read one, another one comes in. Where was I? Excuse me. Let's see. Did I get J-Tez? Yeah, I think I read J-Tez. Palmetto Buckeyes going Wisconsin over Michigan. 16.5 points plus 16.5 there. Thanks for the text. Palmetto Buckeyes says, starting to go big with my picks, Cole. I see that. That one is a big one. And J-Tez clarifying North Carolina plus 13.5 over Clemson. Bible Man goes Vanderbilt versus Alabama. He's taking Vandy plus 10.5. Eric Linehan, Vandy to win versus Bama. I think that's Eric who just called into the show. Eric already getting his upset pick in. Love it. The line there, 10.5. Appreciate you playing for the first time in the Upset Picks Challenge, Eric, and also appreciate you listening to the show. Philip Rollins, Syracuse plus 17.5 versus SMU. Tigers Dakota, who, by the way, Tigers Dakota will have your correct score reflected this week, so bear with us. Sorry about that mistake on our end. Tigers Dakota goes Colorado over TCU. Colorado plus 13.5. Marvy Marv in Boiling Springs goes Vandy plus 10.5. Cornchip says, I'll take Boise State for plus 20.5 over Notre Dame. Sorry, Leprechaun of Lyman. That's a big spread, but boy, we've already seen that one come in more than once. That is surprising. John Dog goes Wake Forest over Virginia Tech plus 6.5. I like that one. John Rhodes goes Houston plus 12.5 over Texas Tech. That's an interesting game, man. I did see that spread yesterday. 12.5. That's an interesting point spread because it is a little bullish, but I'm not scared to go 10 or 12, at some point during the season. It's a little ballsy, but I like it. I like it a lot. Continue to get your upset picks in, 844-326-3663. Right now, top of the ninth, Cleveland leads Detroit 6-1. And boy, they are, let's see, top of the ninth inning. Detroit. Oh, did Detroit just load the bases? Oh, no, they struck out. So now 2 outs in the top of the ninth inning. Detroit's down 5 runs. 1 more out, and Cleveland can put this one away and tie this thing up at 1. Man, how about that? 6 runs so far today for Cleveland. Again, top of the ninth, 2 runners on, 2 outs. That is one of the 2 games going on right now. Also, in the bottom of the 4th inning, the Padres lead the Cubs 1-0. So you have that. Did want to get Diesel's upset pick in, even though he's off this week. He did send it in. Diesel is going with Virginia plus 6.5 at Louisville. I've seen that one come in several times already on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. His wife, F.U. Ashley, is going UNC plus 13.5 over Clemson. How many are we going to see of that this week? I think several. I think several of you Tolos, especially you Gamecock fans, I think y'all are going to pick that UNC. I don't know if it happens, though. I don't know if it Grayson Mann goes Vandy plus 10.5 over Bama. I think that has been the most popular pick thus far, or one of the most popular picks. Skrilla in Greenville goes Vandy plus 10.5 over Alabama. Go Dogs, says Skrilla. Steve Squared going Houston plus 10.5 over Texas Tech. So Tolos, even though we're not talking upset picks the whole show, you can get your upset pick in at any point in today's show. It goes until 7. When I turn the computer off at 7 o'clock, it's over for today. And then tomorrow and Friday, the Upset Picks Challenge will be open both days during show hours. Let's dive back into the Brian Snitker conversation. We're joined by home team Brandon Leak of 680 The Fan in Atlanta next, right here on The Fan Upstate. Tolos, I'm telling you, there are few people out there that are as awesome as home team Brandon Leak, 680, the fan in Atlanta. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, on X, if you have not done so already. I bring Brandon into the show right now to talk a little Braves baseball. Did you have this on your bingo card, Brandon, for this hump day, first day of October?
You talking about what happened a little bit earlier today
Yes,
at Truist Park?
Yeah, I should have known. You're in the know. You're in the know. You knew this was coming, right?
No, that's one of the things you can put on the board. Kids, that's why you shouldn't gamble. We just talked about which way things were going. We knew that there was going to be a presser. And obviously, it's, every year you have the end of the year presser after the season. But they did feel like something was a little bit strange after about 10:30, 10:45. And so just not knowing. And then the fact that, Brian Snitker not only intimated, but said, he felt, the paraphrase, recharged and was looking forward to running it back a couple of weeks ago, and then to hear the announcement today that he wants to, spend the time with his family and his grandkids and go into the next chapter of his life. I'm not going to say it was shocking, because I think it could be a 50-50 proposition either way, looking at how the Braves season went and a lot of the unknowns going into next year. But it is what it is now, and now he is going to be a Brave for life, as he will be moved into another part of the organization. And the Braves now are on the search for the next manager for the Atlanta Braves.
We're joined by home team Brandon Leak of 680, the fan in Atlanta. Brandon, it's interesting, man, with what you just brought up, with what Snitker said a couple of weeks ago, compared to what he said today. And tell me if I understood this incorrectly. In the audio I heard, it very much sounded like what Brian Snitker said was, this has been planned for a long, long time, so it shouldn't necessarily come as a surprise. That's the way I took it.
Yeah, you can always play conspiracy theorist at home.
Right.
Did he want to come back? And they told him, look, we want to go in another direction. The things change at the end. The other side of it is, when he was asked a couple of weeks ago if he wanted to come back, you also have to put into context, it was at the end of the season, winding down. The Atlanta Braves had turned things around after having so many guys hitting near 225 and 230 most of the season. And you wanted to make sure that you didn't do anything to distract from the fact that the turnaround was going on. Guys were still scrapping and clawing to compete. And the opposite is, if he had known, or if it were the case that he was going to retire, if he comes out and says, well, what do you think about coming back next year? Well, I'm out. What does that do? Well, now you got a distraction. Every single question after every single game gets into that. And so, I'm not going to delve into conspiracy theory. The guy has been an Atlanta Brave for 50 years of his life. He got a chance to live out his dream after becoming a Major League Baseball manager. And then on top of that, he gets to put on his resume that he ends up winning a World Series with the Atlanta Braves. I'm not going to do anything but take Brian Snitker at his word.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And look, we all know what he's done for the organization. I mean, he pretty much dedicated his entire life to this organization for as long as Brian Snitker has called himself an Atlanta Brave. When you look at the way it ended, I mean, do you factor in last year? And, a lot of people will say, hey, last year that team didn't deserve to make the postseason. And then this year, not making the postseason and having the struggles that the Braves did in 2025, how much of this year do you think went into the decision for him or AA or whoever it was that ultimately made the decision?
That's a very good question, Cole, because it's hard to say. If he had the full complement of his team and they made a postseason run and he calls it a career, I mean, that's a fine way to retire. If it goes like it did this year, where everything went wrong and everybody couldn't hit and everybody was hurt, and he calls it a career because he doesn't know what the future is going to look like, that's a good way to retire. I just think there's also something to talk about the future. What if he goes into next year and the Braves aren't good? What if he goes back into next year and maybe they're the same or worse? Do you put the general manager in a position where you would have to remove Brian Snitker next year, just for business purposes? And then for him personally, he knows the pulse of his team and knows if his basement has been emptied. And, what more can he do outside of another trip to the World Series and another victory? He cannot top what he's already done. So when you look at, he's getting ready to go into the winter of his career anyway. He's already said that he wants to spend time with his grandchildren and his family after missing out on so many things for 50 years anyway. I don't know if, the question I want to know is what was the date? What was the evening? What was the morning when he actually made the decision? And that is of interest to me. Other than that, this guy has given a career to an organization that is first class. And I think no matter what you think about the situation, he's going out first class.
Do you think, Brandon, a fresh voice, a new voice was needed in that clubhouse?
Needed. I don't know if the voices that left and the energy that left, were the problem. The problem was they couldn't hit and they couldn't pitch. So if you look at what walked out of the door, and this is going back, looking at a domino effect, there's no more Dansby Swanson. There's no more Freddie Freeman. There's no more, Tyler Magic. There's no more AJ Minter. There's no more Max Fried. So a lot of guys who, you could consider the heart and soul of the Braves. There's no more Ron Washington.
Yeah.
That could be a thing, but I don't think that is the reason why the Braves didn't become successful. So to answer your question, not a bad time maybe to turn the page, get a new voice, maybe for the first time in a long time, get somebody who is from outside of the organization. You tried Freddie Gonzalez after Bobby Cox, and Bobby Cox was the manager for a generation. Then you go back to a brave man with Brian Snitker. Maybe this is the time when you have a core group of players. You look at the Braves, they're still a good team with their core with Ronald Acuna Jr. and Matt Olson and Ozzie Albies and hopefully Drake London getting more starts next year, which he will, and having Austin Riley coming back and Michael Harris II. You have a good core for a new manager to come in here and win with. You just need to get another starting pitch and figure out what's going on with your bullpen and find a DH. So I think this is a really good time to turn the page, go into the future. And, if you want to call it a new voice or a fresh voice, that's fine to call it that. Why not give that a shot? And it's a very good opportunity maybe to go into the future with somebody who can better the team.
Joined by home team Brandon Leak of 680 The Fan. We'll get into the new search in just a second, Brandon. But I believe I know the answer to this, but I want to just check just to make sure I'm on the same page as you when it comes to a theory, a crazy theory in my mind that I've heard and some of my listeners have sent in. I believe there's way too much talent to blow this thing up. Are you on the same wavelength as that?
Oh yeah, you're not blowing this up.
Okay,
no, what you're doing is you're making additions.
Sure.
It's the end of the road for Marcell Ozuna. He's done very well. He lived up to his contract, but he's getting older and he's breaking down. So you need a DH. You're not sending pieces off when you have guys that are still in their prime, the primes of their career. The question is, how do you build a roster if you're not going to spend much money, or if you're going to spend much money on one person? And is it a big gamble to expect all of the guys who were hurt to be able to come back and perform at a championship winning level with your pitching staff? So, that is the question for me. But no, I don't think at all Alex Anthopoulos has on his mind or, in his decision-making to blow up the Atlanta Braves.
It's really interesting, man. Now that we turn the page and we know that Brian Snitker is no longer the manager, what do you feel like the ultimate wish list should look like? On our show, just an hour and a half that I've been on the air, I've seen names from Chipper Jones to the Tennessee head coach, talking about the Volunteers. I've seen, obviously, Bruce Bochy since what happened with him. I don't know if you want to go hire another 70-year-old. What do you think that wish list should look like?
Look, I love my grandparents more than anybody on earth, or as much as anybody on earth. So I'm not going to be in the number to be accused of ageism. However, I think there is the opportunity when you look around. Skip Schumacher, he's been a National League Manager of the Year. If you want to go to a guy who's been in a Brave uniform before, Mark DeRosa, his name could be there. Walt White, who's already on the staff. I don't know if I can't remember. He's a brown belt or a black belt in karate. He's a tough guy. So he would be somebody from within if you continue in the Braves' way of hiring from within. But I think you have, a great opportunity. Maybe David Ross, who's been a guy who has been successful. And so you look around at the list that could be in the credenza of AA, Alex Anthopoulos. I think that you don't have to make an extreme hire. I would like somebody maybe who could be a little bit old school heavy. Well, strike that. More new school heavy with a little bit of old school in them. So that's to say what Snit really had to conform to, because Brian Snitker was definitely old school, without a doubt. He's old school, but the way the game is played, the rule changes, the celebrations, you want a manager that fits in with all of that, as well as having the old school vibe that can, kick a guy in the can if he needs to. And whoever that guy is, I hope he has a blend of that.
Talking to home team Brandon Leak of 680 The Fan in Atlanta after the big news earlier today that Brian Snitker is no longer the manager. One texter did chime in and wanted me to ask, Brandon, hope this is okay. One of the texters is asking, in your opinion, do you feel like this was ultimately Snitker's decision?
I think yes. I'm not going to believe that he told AA last night, hey, let's call a presser. They've been talking about this. My opinion, no proof. This is not reporting, but my opinion, there's no way you have a guy of Snitker's, of his presence, knowing how this season turned out, really was over 2 months ago, and there's been no conversation or leaning from those guys. And maybe it was a situation where he indicated which way he was leaning and said, look, I just want to focus on managing, and we'll deal with the actual nuts and bolts of it when the season ends. But I don't think he was thrown out of the door. He was begging to come back as manager. And Alex Anthopoulos said, nope, you're done, buddy. Thanks for the memories. And we'll call you when we need you. I don't think that was the way things went down.
More far-fetched in your mind for the next hire, Bruce Bochy or Chipper Jones? Which one is more far-fetched?
Chipper Jones. And it's a conversation because, look, Chipper is old school. He certainly would galvanize the fan base. He certainly would be the post-game presser to see on YouTube or to be in after any game, because Chipper is honest. He doesn't owe anybody anything. He isn't scared of anything, and he speaks the truth every time he opens his mouth. But I think that would be more of a fan hire. But it's one of those things, everybody retires, everybody gets fired. Nobody is manager forever, and you don't ever want to have to fire one of your legends for any reason. I've had the same conversation with Hawks great Dominique Wilkins. Years ago, we were having a conversation, and he was talking about, what do you think about coaching? And, some of us guys that have been around for a while, I told him, Neek, you don't ever want to even ask for the job, because you don't want to be in a position where they have to ask you to leave. And so I would say in that scenario, Bochy would probably get the nod over Chipper Jones. But I'm telling you right now, there wouldn't be an empty seat in the house. And certainly we would all be wanting to say, let's see what Manager Jones has to say, what Skipper Jones has to say if he were to become the manager.
No doubt. No doubt. You're exactly right on that. Joined by home team Brandon Leak. Another far-fetched when we go from a 70-year-old Bruce Bochy to a name that I'm sure you guys on 680 The Fan in Atlanta have already heard, maybe not. Ron Washington, 74 years old. Is Ron Washington, any chance he comes back to Atlanta?
No, I don't think so. I think, it would have been interesting if Snit had come back for one more year, with him not being out as manager of the Angels anymore, if he would have had an opportunity to come back for, lack of a better term, the final ride. But no, I don't think that, I think this hire needs to be something that is solid for the rest of the decade. And again, I don't want to be accused of ageism, but when you have a chance to clear the slate, get somebody who can handle the job, it's a first-class organization, which Ron Washington can handle. This was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, without a doubt, you get him in here. But I think you want somebody 10 years from now to be the same guy you hired this time. And, at 73 and 70, I just don't know if an 80-year-old manager moving forward is where the Braves could be or should be. You probably should need to go with somebody who's going to be with this core for a long time. And then as we get to the end of the decade, when you make the transition of guys getting out of their contracts, other big decisions to make, then you'll have a guy who hopefully has a title under his belt and be ready to deal with the transition.
Brandon, last one for you. This name has been brought up several times on our text line. Mark DeRosa, not a ton of coaching experience, but, do you feel like this guy has the resume to be able to get the job?
That is intriguing, Cole, because, Brian Snitker didn't have any managerial experience.
Sure.
And look what he did. He fit. He was the right guy, had the right attitude. He criticized the right way. He certainly pumped up his players the right way. That's a very good question. I would love, I did not get a chance to go to the presser today, but I would love to ask Alex Anthopoulos the next time he comes on our show if that makes a difference. I don't think it has to. I think if you had a series of failures where you had fired 2 or 3 managers and you hired guys who didn't have experience, and so you didn't want to get burned by a lack of experience, that could be, certainly you would think of something you would think about. But I think you just want a guy who you think can win and who fits with your players, who fits with your clubhouse, who will fit during the good times, who will fit if he has to bench somebody, who will fit if he has a problem or run in with one of his players behind the scenes. You want somebody who can fit and somebody who can win. And I don't know if you necessarily need experience to check off those boxes.
Brandon, you're the best, man. Appreciate the heck out of you, and we'll do it again soon.
Anytime, Cole.
Brandon Leak, that's home team Brandon Leak, 680 The Fan in Atlanta. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, on X. I'm telling you, it doesn't get much better than home team Brandon Leak, right on the pulse of what's happening on Twitter, on X, at Home Team B League, Morning Drive co-host of The Locker Room in 680 The Fan Atlanta. Appreciate him for joining us on The Fan Upstate. We did not get to them earlier, but we will get to our Daily Wires next. It is time to get into our Daily Wires segment we do each and every day. The top headlines, the top stories in all of sports right here on the Fan Upstate. Diesel still on vacation. Cole Bryson with you solo the rest of the week. Reminder, the first Daily Wire, I will be live in Sparkle City tomorrow. Tolos, if you are on that side of town, it is going to be a great time tomorrow. They do this every single year. USC Upstate does. It's Morgan Square Madness tomorrow. And this year, a new twist. It is going to be at Fifth Third Park, the home of the Hub City Spartan Burgers. So if you're out and about, come by, hang out with me. I think Dan B's coming. Some of you other Tolos in Spartanburg, if you want to swing on by, holler at me, and I'll be there 3 to 7 tomorrow at Morgan Square Madness. On Tuesday, the Tigers defeated the Guardians 2-1. The Cubs defeated the Padres 3-1. The Red Sox defeated the Yankees 3-1, and the Dodgers defeated the Reds 10-5. Today, in the MLB wild card, we have had one game go final. The Guardians defeated the Tigers 6-1. And right now in the bottom of the fifth inning, the Padres are on top of the Chicago Cubs. They lead 3-0. Tonight, 6 o'clock, game 2, Red Sox and the Yankees. Are you kidding me? As good as last night's game was, this one should be a lot of fun tonight. And then at 9 p.m., Reds-Dodgers on ESPN. 2 more games tonight. The Cleveland Browns, in case you missed it earlier, are benching veteran quarterback Joe Flacco and will turn to rookie Dylan Gabriel as their starter for Sunday's game in London against the Minnesota Vikings. Browns players were informed of the quarterback change Wednesday morning, sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter. The team officially announced the decision later Wednesday, but did not disclose a depth chart behind Gabriel. And I would imagine with that game in London that they probably are leaving today, right? If they're not already over there. I mean, I don't know how much jet lag plays, into a trip like that, but I'd imagine they have to spend several days over there before the game, right? Biggest news of the day, Brian Snitker, who guided the Atlanta Braves to the 2021 World Series championship, will not return as manager after Atlanta failed to make the postseason for the first time since 2017. The Braves announced the end of Snitker's 10-year run as manager on Wednesday, adding that he will remain with the organization in advisory role in 2026. How about Aaron Boone last night in that Yankees game that I mentioned? Aaron Boone's in-game pitching decisions were under a microscope yet again after he pulled starter Max Fried amid 6.5 scoreless innings, and the New York Yankees bullpen faltered in a 3-1 loss to the Boston Red Sox, man. That was absolutely brutal. Everybody is already calling for Aaron Boone's job. And I can guarantee you, if they lose tonight, the heat will be on Aaron Boone. I'm telling you, it will be. 3-time All-Pro linebacker Shaq Leonard is retiring as a member of the Indianapolis Colts. The team announced on Wednesday Leonard will address Colts fans at halftime of Indianapolis's game against the Las Vegas Raiders this Sunday, and he will be the team's anvil striker before kickoff. In Iowa, number 14, Iowa State secondary will be without longtime starters Jontez Williams and Jeremiah Cooper for the rest of the season because of knee injuries. Coach Matt Campbell announced Tuesday that Williams damaged the ACL in his right knee in the 39-14 win over Arizona on Saturday. Cooper tore his ACL in practice last week. The two have combined for 55 starts. That's a big loss. In the Big 12 Conference has fined Colorado $50,000 and publicly reprimanded the school after a derogatory chant from Buffalo's fans targeted the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints during Saturday's football game against BYU. The statement read, Hateful and discriminatory language has no home in the Big 12 Conference. League Commissioner Brett Yomark said Tuesday in a statement. While we appreciate Colorado apologizing for the chants that occurred in the stands during Saturday's game, the Big 12 maintains zero tolerance for such behavior. UCLA and offensive coordinator Tino Sunseri, maybe? Tino Sunseri. How about that? Let me try one more time there. Have mutually agreed to part ways, the team announced on Tuesday. So, man, the UCLA season has not gone well, and now their offensive coordinator is the next to go. Tolos, the Upset Picks Challenge continues. We're going to dive back into it in the very next segment. In case you missed it, the Upset Picks Challenge opened today at 4 o'clock. It's open for 2 more hours, and I am calling for a new season high. I think Dan B said we were around 160 or so back in week 1, but now that we're in week 6, is it already week 6 of college football? Are you kidding me? We are now calling for a new season high of 200 entries. Okay, 200. A lot of upset picks have already come in. I will ask one more time this hour right now for your upset pick, and I'll give you mine in the very next segment. The Upset Picks Challenge rolls on. Still a loaded show coming your way, Tolos. We have Bill Bender of The Sporting News, a huge national guest that we have on every Wednesday at 5:22. We also have an audio blitz to get to and a lot more conversation to be had. Also, want to hear from you, Tolos, on the stream where you can watch the show. 104 Tolos watching right now on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We'll continue the Upset Picks Challenge, breaking records next right here on the Fan Up Stage. On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, and yes, we're going to get back to the upset picks in just a second. Tolo JJ text in at 844-326-3663. Tolo JJ asks, Cole, have you seen the recent news with the clock tower in downtown Spartanburg? So I know this is a sports station, but because I live in Spartanburg County, I've seen like on Facebook or somewhere over the past couple of days where I thought they were removing the clock tower from downtown Spartanburg. So since the texter brought it up, I did see a recent link, and I don't know, maybe you Tolos out there have more information on this than I do. If you don't know, if you're not from Spartanburg or don't live there, you don't know, there's a big clock tower in downtown, and it's been there forever. I think since like 12 BC, right? I don't know really the time or the date that it's been there since, but it's been there a long time. So evidently, I find this intriguing, and I know this is not sports related. I'll get back to sports in a second, but I find this weird and kind of funny. Evidently, a vote had passed, and I think I'm understanding this right, that was going to remove the clock tower in downtown Spartanburg. And I even saw videos earlier this week and have seen pictures like as of today, as recent as today, where they've got this entire, this scene almost looks like a crime scene. They've got the caution tape up. They've got this entire area blocked off for where they're going to do the removal and I don't know, demolition or whatever of this Spartanburg clock tower, something that's been around forever in downtown Spartanburg. And again, Tolos, if I've got the story wrong, please feel free to correct me. But I think what JJ is referring to here is this new news that evidently there was a group that filed a lawsuit claiming that the removing of the tower violates the Heritage Act, a law that protects monuments from being torn down without state approval. And literally, I'm yesterday watching videos of like excavators, bobcats, about to do some demolition over there in downtown Spartanburg. And what they do, what did somebody do? Like, this is how I envision it in my head. Somebody in a tux or a suit and tie ran up while the excavator was about to knock the tower down with a piece of paper, a lawsuit, and made them cease operations. I don't know. I don't know if that's how it went down or not. That's how I envision it going down in my head. But for those of you that live in Spartanburg and are curious, evidently the clock tower is not going down yet. So a judge evidently today granted a temporary injunction to halt the removal of the clock tower. And the order will remain in effect until a decision is made at a court hearing scheduled for October 6th. So some serious stuff here, right? I mean, we're pressing matters about this clock tower. I don't know. I mean, look, things that are like that, the clock tower is one of the things that makes downtown Spartanburg unique. I don't know if I really have an opinion on it either way, but I kind of would probably lean to leave it there. Is it in the way? Who's it bothering? Leave the clock tower alone in downtown Spartanburg. So, Tolo JJ, to answer your question, that's all I've seen. I think it's kind of funny, but we'll see. We'll see. Again, pressing news on this Wednesday. Tolos, appreciate you being a part of the show already. We do have Bill Bender coming up on the show in about 15 minutes of the sporting news, a big-time national guest that we talk to every single Wednesday on the show. But I want to get right back into it. The Upset Picks Challenge is live. It's happening right now. We're rocking. We're rolling. And I want to let you know a little behind the scenes. I have not had a chance, Dan B, to copy and paste all of the messages over. I will, I promise, very, very soon. But usually, Diesel, while I'm talking, or vice versa, will copy all of the entries over to the sheet, the doc. Dan B, I don't know how many have come in so far. I'll know, again, probably in an hour or so when I have a chance to get all these over to the doc. But Me being solo, I have not had time to copy and paste each entry because there have been a lot of entries today. Upset Picks Challenge rolls on 844-FANFONE. We had, I believe it was Eric who called in earlier, new to the show, very, very new, first-time caller, and didn't know about the Upset Picks Challenge. So if you're new to the show, maybe you just got off work, you're headed home on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon or evening. I guess it's officially evening now, even though I don't know when it goes from afternoon to evening. I've always wondered that, by the way. But if you're just getting in your car and you don't know about the Upset Picks Challenge, very simple. Number one, we want to invite you to play along. If you're a college football fan, man, this thing is a lot of fun. Here's how it works. We have a season-long rolling tally, a rolling total of Tolos on the Fan Upstate Facebook and Twitter page. You can see the standings there and the Tolos there. We have this rolling, the season-long standings page where if you hit on a pick, you get that amount of points allotted to your name. You get credit for that amount of points. If you don't, you lose a point. If you don't play, you lose 2 points. Now, let me explain how it works. You as a college football fan are looking for an underdog this weekend, according to a spread on ESPN.com. You're looking for an underdog to outright win the game. If you think that team will outright win the game, you send it in, your name, the game, and the spread to 844-326-3663, just like this. For example, Tim D. and Easley goes Wake Forest over Virginia Tech, 6.5 points. Wake Forest plus 6.5. We'd love to have you play along if you have not done so already. I will tell you this, it is so much more challenging than you think. When I started this last time for the first time, I thought, oh man, I'll be good at this. I'll be really good. I might even have a chance to win the dadgum thing. However, I was way wrong on that. I've hit one time this year. I think I hit a couple times last year. This Upset Picks Challenge is very, very, very challenging. It really is. So, again, your name, the game, and the spread. Here is what you Tolos have taken so far. If I don't call your name out, it doesn't mean we didn't get your text. We've just had so many texts come in today. We have not had time, or I haven't had time to read them all. D. Fig on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line goes with Virginia over BYU plus 18.5 points. That's a big-time gamble there, D-Fig. Best of luck to you. Texter says, Spartanburg giving me Back to the Future vibes with Save the Clock Tower. That's right. That's right. That's funny. That's funny. Save the Clock Tower. Let's see. Jay Tez says they were just taking the guts out of the clock. Talking about the clock tower, I guess. Tim D. and Easley goes Wake Forest over Virginia Tech plus 6.5. That's his upset pick. Gamecocks Lee goes UNC over Clemson for 14 points. And you know, I imagined that UNC over Clemson would be a popular pick this week. I really did. I think that would be look, number one, there are a lot of Gamecock fans in the audience, right, that want Clemson to lose and might think they lose. So I think that's going to continue to be a popular pick, North Carolina over Clemson. So Gamecock Lee goes UNC over Clemson for 14. Buckeye Mike says, give me Vandy plus 10.5 over Bama, still 0 for the season. This pick seems too easy, especially when Dewey picked it also. Good point there. Good point. Joey Bruton goes Vandy plus 10.5 versus Bama this weekend. There have been a lot of Vandy plus 10.5. I've still yet to make my pick. I'll tell you what mine is here coming up very, very soon. Percy goes Texas State versus Arkansas State plus 13.5. RJ was asking about DeRosa. I think we did hit on that, RJ, with Brandon Leak. Appreciate the text. Elephanos 1 goes North Carolina plus 13.5 over Clemson. Joe D. Pascu? I don't know how to say that. DePasca? Joe, I'm sorry. Maybe I have never pronounced your name. I'm terrible at pronouncing DePascu. I don't know, Joe, how to pronounce your last name, but I've got you. Akron plus 8.5 versus Central Michigan. T-Ray, what's up, T-Ray? Going Vandy over Bama plus 10.5. He also says go Cox. Good to hear from you, T-Ray. Brian Sheely taking North Carolina over Clemson for 13.5 points. Brian says go Heels. Appreciate you, Brian. And by the way, caller, I did lose you. I was coming to you very, very soon. If you want to get back in, you can do so at 844-326-3663. You can also submit your upset pick on the phone lines as well. Jeff R. going BYU over West Virginia, 19.5. Jeff R. swinging for the fences there. Steve Squared going with Houston plus 10.5 over Texas Tech. Skrilla in Greenville goes Vandy 10.5 over Alabama. He also throws in a go Dogs. John Rhodes going Houston plus 12.5 over Texas Tech. John Dog, Wake Forest over Virginia Tech plus 6.5. Cornchip taking Boise State plus 20.5 over Notre Dame. Marvin Boiling Springs going with Vandy plus 10.5 over Alabama. Tigers Dakota taking Colorado over TCU plus 13.5. Philip Rollins taking Syracuse plus 17.5 versus SMU. So those are just a few that have come in within the last hour or so. Again, make sure you include your name, the game, and the spread. Lefty Tiger gets in and goes Vandy plus 10.5 over Alabama. This is a funny text. Adam, bad, but funny. Adam says, bye week over South Carolina for 20 points. That's funny. That's funny. You can't take the bye over the Gamecocks. Terrible, but funny. Rebel Vol 51 just now got his in. Vanderbilt plus 10.5 over Alabama. Bo from Greer goes Michigan State plus 11.5 over Nebraska. So those are some of the most recent upset picks that have come in. John Corley just now got his in. He goes North Carolina plus 14.5 over Clemson. That one's popular, man. So far, I have not transferred all of these over to the doc, but North Carolina over Clemson and Vandy over Alabama are the two most popular ones thus far. Those are the two. It'll be interesting to see, though, how it shakes out. On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, Intimate Kev goes Wisconsin plus 17.5 over Michigan. That is a big, big spread. I like it. Kev swinging for the fences. You got to go big, right? You got to go big. Scared money doesn't make money. That's what Kev says, sending in Wisconsin plus 17.5 over Michigan. All right, I guess I need to I've been putting this off. I guess I need to make my pick. I've had a few. I've got it narrowed down to like 2 or 3, but I guess I need to make my pick. But before I make my pick, let's go to the phone lines. 844-326-3663. Who we got?
This is Tom.
Tom in Somerville. What's up, Tom?
Hey, it's Wednesday, so you know what that means.
What's that mean?
Now, I've struggled the last 2 weeks, but we're going to get back on track this week. And I've been debating this game for a while, but I'm going to do it. And it's not very many points, but I got to get back on a winning streak. So I'm going to take Iowa State plus 1.5 this weekend on the road at Cincinnati.
Tom, I mean, talk about Mr. Conservative here. Are you kidding me?
Okay, screw it. You know what? I don't care anymore. I'm not going to win, so I'm going to start taking some shots. And
are you changing your upset pick, or are you going to keep it with Iowa State?
I'm changing it. Give me Chapel Bill over the Clemson Tigers. I got to get back on top. 14.5. I'll be honest. I don't think that game's going to be remotely close. I think Clemson's going to beat the snot out of them.
Oh, thank you for saying snot. I didn't know where you were going there.
So before any of my haters out there say I'm so anti Clemson and biased, I think Clemson's going to win the game by a lot of points.
Tom, you have haters?
I got a few, but this is strictly business, and I need to get to the top of the leaderboard. So give me Chapel Bill.
I like it. Can I ask you, since I know you're a Braves fan, can I ask you what your thoughts are on the news today with Brian Snitker no longer being the manager of the Bravos?
It's a great day. You know, he won a World Series. Good for him. The Braves are sending him on an all-paid-for vacation to Hawaii. I hope he has a great time. I hope they go get a manager who knows what he's doing. And I hope Alex is next. You can send him on his way to Hawaii, too.
Jeez.
Bring in a GM that knows what he's doing, and let's just turn this thing around. We got to turn this thing around. I've been watching playoff baseball for the last 2 days, and it's making me sick.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
I will say these playoff games have been incredible.
Sure.
The yesterday and today has been incredible. It's been great baseball, but the Braves deserve to be in the playoffs.
Who wins tonight, Yankees or Red Sox?
Oh, the Red Sox are going to end it tonight. They're going to win. They're going to end it tonight.
So let me serious question. I teased this a minute ago, Tom. You're a baseball guy. We just saw Brian Snitker. We've seen a few other managers dismissed. If Aaron Boone loses tonight, do they fire that guy?
It wouldn't surprise me. It is the Yankees. It is the Yankees. But, you know, a name, I did some Google researching earlier. And, you know, Andrew Jones's name might pop up for this Braves job. Just saying.
Andrew, you mean Chipper?
No, Andrew.
No shot.
I don't know if he gets it, but do not be surprised when he at least gets an interview.
Well, who do you want as a Braves fan?
There's the Weeks is his last name. I think Ricky Weeks is his name.
Mm-hmm.
He's the associate head coach.
You mean
of the
Walt?
Brewers.
Walt? Or no? Not Walt.
No, I think his name's Ricky.
Okay,
His name's Ricky. But he's been with the Brewers for a little while. He's one of the best assistant coaches in the game, according to the experts. Apparently, he's had some time in Atlanta in his career. Bring him on home. Bring him on home.
Bring him home, John B. Bring him home is what Tom says, right?
That's right.
Thanks for the call, Tom.
You know, at the end of the day, Clemson still sucks, and go Gamecocks.
Tom in Somerville. Good stuff. At the end of the day, he says Clemson still sucks and go Gamecocks. You can't beat it with a stick, man. Cannot beat it with a stick. Tolos, I'm still torn. I've got to make my upset pick. I've got to make it. I've thought about taking Vandy. I just don't think Bama loses to Vandy 2 years in a row. I've thought about taking Kansas State over Baylor in 6.5. Kansas State looked really good last week against Central Florida. And then I'm also thinking about Wake Forest plus 6.5 over Virginia Tech. I don't know, man. I'm torn this week. I'm really struggling with. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Let's ask Bill Bender what he thinks. Am I overthinking it? Bill Bender will give his upset pick as well. He is with the Sporting News. We talk to him every Wednesday. A big time national college football guest we'll have for you next on the Fan Upstate. Well, thank God for Bill Bender, because if it weren't for him, I would have had to make a decision on my upset pick, but I get to put it off for one more segment just because I'm so indecisive. Bill Bender, The Sporting News. It may be the upset picks challenge, Bill, but what would you say is the one thing in life that you're the most indecisive about?
I mean, in our family, everybody asks what we're going to eat for dinner every night, and then that's the easiest answer, right? But when everybody says I don't care, then people start getting mad.
Yeah.
So that's probably the easiest answer here.
What's the longest that's ever drawn out, like in terms of the deciding for what's for dinner?
Oh, I mean, not too bad. I mean, we eventually come to a decision and go to like a fallback option. But when you're always on the go, like
Yeah.
my wife is also a journalist. We have 2 kids. They're 11 and 14. You know, you have to make those decisions eventually. There's no doubt.
Bill Bender, The Sporting News, joining me right here on the Fan Upstate. Bill, I told you this last week, and I'll start with it again before I forget. I am experiencing my first Ohio State game on Saturday for the very first time. Super stoked. However, let me bring you in on something. Here in South Carolina, we do have a few of these, but not many. I, in the past year and a half to 2 years, have fallen in love, and I mean like head over heels down bad when it comes to Donato's Pizza. I love it. I knew it was from the Ohio area. I just didn't know exactly. And then, Bill, I found out I was already excited that I'm going to my first Ohio State game. But then I found out they serve Donato's Pizza inside the stadium. I mean, can you really talk me off of this ledge that I'm about to fall into of nothing but Donato's Pizza?
Oh, it's so good. That's our favorite in this house. Well, you know, we go different taste in this house. I'm the, put everything on it guy. You know, I love Donato's. It's excellent. And it's kind of an institution around here in Central Ohio. You know, you get that on for a game day. I mean, I'm not joking that I'm glad you said that, because I'll be sitting here on a Saturday and, you know, if I'm working from home, my son and I we'll knock out a large by ourselves.
No doubt. The squares, man, they're the hot, the pepperoni, a hot honey, whatever it is. I mean, just at the abs. What's more of a staple in Ohio, Donato's or Skyline chili?
Okay, so Skyline's more divisive, right? There are people that hate it.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it, because I'm a big fan. My family, it's funny, we're going to talk about food the whole time.
Yeah.
But because my family, nobody else likes it but me.
Mm.
And it's like, it's disappointing on so many levels. They're like, it doesn't taste right. It's not very good. I'm a big chili guy too, especially when it turns October, because it's funny. We're having stew tonight. It's crockpot stew night because it turned October, and that's what we do up here.
Yeah, I love it. And this is what you get when you're stuck with me and Diesel's out. It turns. Who knows how this interview turns? I'm going to keep it going just because we're on the conversation. If you, Bill Bender, took the 2 staples in Ohio, Donato's Pizza and Skyline Chili, and you had to compare those 2 staples to 2 college quarterbacks, what 2 college quarterbacks would you compare those 2 staples with?
Oh my gosh.
You didn't know you were walking into this today, did you?
This season, I'll say Skyline is Diego Pop, because not everybody loves him. But I do think he has a following that's very loyal, and going into this Alabama game, a chance to do something that wasn't done in the Saban era. There was never a quarterback who started in 2 straight games and beat Alabama twice. Now, Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson for LSU beat Alabama 2 straight years, but they weren't starting. So now I got to come up with a quarterback who's Donato's.
That one's tough, right?
This one's a little bit harder because I really, really like Donato's. It's a personal favorite. I would say, let's go. You can take your pick. Ty Simpson or Julian Sayin.
Ooh.
They're 5-star quarterbacks. They're doing what's necessary to win. You know, Ty Simpson doesn't have an interception, just beat Georgia, and kind of win. And my point is, there's never been a time where I've ordered Donatos where I was like, that was terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're the guy you can rely on right now.
Mr. Reliable is what you're saying. We're joined by Bill Bender of The Sporting News every Wednesday at this time. You know, let's start with Ty Simpson, man. There was so much conversation preseason when it comes to the Heisman Trophy about Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, you name it. Why weren't we talking enough about Ty Simpson?
Well, I think it's that first game. You know, they had that rough first game, and then you always blame it on the quarterback. But I mean, that, like I said, no interceptions. The way they played in the opener was not an indicator of who they really are. And I think we all figured that out pretty quick. He's been mistake free. He gets the ball out on time. I am a fan in general of quarterbacks that kind of wait their turn.
Sure.
You know, he's a 5-star guy. He could have transferred. But now here he is with this chance to against Pavia. And I know we're doing the Manziel comparisons, obviously, with Pavia. And there's something to that. I think there is. But he's going to play kind of the role of A.J. McCarron. Everybody remembers the first Manziel game. I would argue the second one was better.
Ooh.
When they played in College Station, and he had like 500 total yards, and McKay was like both teams scored in the 40s. That was the better game of the two.
No, I'm with you. I'd forgotten about that one, but you're exactly right. As we're joined by Bill Bender of The Sporting News on this Wednesday edition of Wire to Wire, I'm Cole Bryson solo with you this afternoon. Bill, when you look at that game, I mean, the Alabama-Florida State game, we looked at that game, and I say we just in like the general consensus of college football fans, we looked at that game as, oh no, the demise of Alabama is continuing from 2024. Was it unfair to really use that game in the season opener with as much weight and consequences as we did? And now how do you view that result?
Well, I'll view it the way Greg McElroy told me last week. And now he was right. He's a great analyst. He told me, I did a Kalen DeBoer piece last week, and he was talking about how the humidity, the rain, and all those things, it wasn't that Alabama was like loafing. It was that they were gassed in that opener because of the weather. It was a factor. He said, not an excuse, a factor. And I believe him because they look like a different team now. And I think Florida State kind of punched them in the mouth and they didn't know how to respond, but they were able to go blow for blow with Georgia. And I think Kalen DeBoer showed that he's still a very good big game coach. That dates back to his Washington days. And maybe this is the turning point that I knew they weren't going to go away. But now I kind of look at Alabama, and it's wild to think think of where they would be if they lose that game. Now I'm kind of looking at Alabama. I'm like, yeah, they'll probably win the SEC.
I know, man, especially after last week with that win over Georgia. I'm with you. When you look at this matchup Saturday, Vanderbilt getting 10.5 points, I believe, when it comes to their matchup with Alabama. Look, I know there's a lot of people, and especially in our Upset Picks Challenge, picking Vandy over Bama. I just don't know. I find it hard to believe that Alabama will lose to Vandy twice back-to-back years. Am I wrong for looking at that, or in this new age of college football, do you think 1 year is, just that, a year of its own?
I think I'm with you. I'm picking Alabama. I picked them to cover. I didn't feel great about it because it's still 2 scores against a Vanderbilt offense that's looked very good. And Pavia got a little bit of that it factor to him. And that's going to make this game interesting. I talked to you 7 days ago, and I've totally changed my mind based on one result with Florida State and Virginia, where if you always do you can only watch one game. If I could only watch one out of Florida State, Miami, and Alabama, Vandy, I'm picking Alabama Vandy, which I would have said that, last week. But, Florida State losing that Virginia game changed the dynamic.
No, it absolutely did. Bill Bender, The Sporting News. Bill, what do you make of Georgia now after that loss to Alabama, 3-1 on the season?
Well, I mean, the good news is a lot of their games are at home the rest of the way. So, yeah, they still got to play Ole Miss, and, they still got to play Georgia Tech. But, I bet they're kicking themselves about that 4th and 1. And not kicking I'm just a kick the field goal guy.
Yeah.
I am. Not everybody is. I understand that. I understand that field goals are a lot. I think Al Michaels called them an artifact on the Thursday night game last week. And it's just to me, it's like, I'd rather take those points than be there at the end of the night and lose the game by 3 and be like, man, I really wish I would have kicked that field goal.
Yeah.
So that's just me. But I think Georgia's fine. Gunnar Stockton played well. Alabama made a few more plays than they did. I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, I was trying to follow that game as best I could, but I was in the press box at Oregon, Penn State, and Georgia, Alabama was the more watched and more impactful game for most of the night. And then that fourth quarter and overtime at Oregon, Penn State really took that game to the next level.
No doubt. You led me there. I was watching, man, and I was at a big restaurant up in Charlotte, and that was one of the, like, I guess it was an App State, Tennessee mixed kind of sports bar, and I had to go to another corner, another room just to watch that game. You were there. First of all, since we started the segment with food, what was the spread, press box, Oregon versus Penn State for the whiteout? Was it marshmallows and white? Did the theme match the food or no?
No, they had, the usual press box food. They had really good potato salad, though, and I'm a fan of that. It was very good. And chicken tenders, which, again, you can't go
wrong.
When you have kids or reporters or whatever, that's so the game, the atmosphere was whiteouts are amazing.
Sure.
Right? Like they're amazing. They look cool on TV. They're loud. But you could still, and I've said this all week, you could sense the frustration in there. The frustration of, man, they just wanted to win that game so bad. And I thought they fought so hard in the fourth quarter. Drew Aller making plays, and they're pushing the pile. And I thought, okay, they're going to do this. And then bang, bang in overtime, Dante Moore makes a play, as everybody saw, and that interception happened so fast. And just to see the visible frustration in the press conferences after from Franklin, who we've all been reciting the stat. I don't need to do it. And then Drew Aller as well. So, I mean, I feel for him. But at a certain point, you got to go out and win those games.
You do. You have to win them. It's fascinating. That was a heck of a ball game, especially like you mentioned, the fourth quarter there. You've been in a lot of college stadiums across the country. Where do you rank the whiteout in terms of college football traditions?
I think it's number one.
Ooh.
I know Tiger Stadium at night. I get that.
Yeah.
And Clemson and South Carolina have some traditions. I think Script, Ohio's up there, obviously. It's one that, like I say, I've been to 3 of them now, and you just kind of catch yourself. It's hypnotizing. It literally is. You're like, you catch yourself staring at the crowd and you're like, wow, this is loud, and I don't know how. But which makes Dante Moore's performance all that more incredible.
Sure.
Like, not getting rattled in that. I mean, he got hit really good on a 4th down early in the game, and you're like, man, that's going to shake him up. No, he was under control the whole time.
Dante Moore, Ty Simpson, which one right now would you take?
That's a really tough one. Because they're different quarterbacks in a lot of ways. Like, within their offense, Dante Moore's control. I do. And the added threat that he runs more, and the added threat that Oregon just, they're physical. Now, that's not saying Ty Simpson is not having a great season, but if I had to pick one right now, I mean, I just watched, well, I guess they both had a huge win on the road. So, I mean, I could cop out and say I could take either. I'd be comfortable with either one, but I'd probably give a slight edge to Dante Moore.
One of the big ones Saturday, Bill, Ole Miss taking down LSU 24-19. LSU losing that game in your mind now means what?
They're in trouble.
Ooh.
Because Garrett Nussmeier is not playing great. And if you I did this, I went through an exercise this week where I took all these SEC teams and kind of sketched out what I think they'll do with the remainder of their schedule. So, yes, I do think there'll be 4 or 5 SEC teams in the playoffs. Where LSU gets tricky is I probably got them around 9-3 right now, and I don't know if that's going to be good enough to get in. And that's saying that LSU will beat Vanderbilt, which I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, they go to Vanderbilt. that's not a give me. So, the Caden Durham injury is huge. Their defense is very good, but I came away more impressed that Ole Miss won the football game.
No, I'm with you there. One more for you, maybe more than one, depending on time here. Georgia Tech now 5-0, and another last-second fire drill-like field goal, 30-29 over Wake Forest. My question to you, is there some luck? Is there some goodwill with Georgia Tech, who's now 5-0, or like the first part of that, is there luck? Does their luck run out? Or, in your mind, no, this is a serious contender, not only for the ACC, but for the college football playoff?
No, they're a serious contender. For the playoff. And you have to be a little lucky sometimes.
Sure.
Wake Forest pushed them to the limit, but I just think looking at their schedule, they should be favored in most games leading up to Georgia. Now, the key for them is not that they had those moments last year where they would lose this game. They pulled it out. Wake Forest kind of did them a favor by not kicking the extra point.
Yeah.
But I definitely think this is a team that should be favored, like I said, and they got to keep Haynes King upright. He's averaging like 18 carries a game. That is risky business with your quarterback.
What does Clemson, or I guess the better question, how does Clemson, Bill Bender, rebound Saturday after the bye against North Carolina, where they're favored by 14.5?
I think just win a football game and go from there.
Yeah.
And I'm being honest. Like, I know that's not just win a game and start to stack up some wins. And, this is a lot less in the limelight than it was in the preseason,
Sure.
This matchup with Belichick. So I just think just get out of there with a win. And I know that might sound a little harsh, but that's where Clemson is right now. And you can still get in that ACC race. I mean, right now, I think Florida State's loss to Virginia took some of the pressure and scrutiny off of Clemson. And why not take advantage of that, try to stack up a couple wins here in October and try to get into November.
And then, Bill, as we let you go, 7:30 Saturday night on ABC, number 3 versus number 18, 4-0 Miami versus 3-1 Florida State. Do you look at this as make or break for Florida State?
Kind of, because I think it's going to be hard to get into the ACC championship game with 2 losses.
Sure.
So you could go 10-2 and cash in that Alabama win, which is a good thing to have in your back pocket. But I just think it's going to be tough to get in. This is a huge fun game. I'm doing this all-time Miami versus Florida State NFL team.
Oh, wow.
NFL players.
Oh, my word.
It's been a fun exercise today. There's 16 Hall of Famers out there. I mean, it's just it makes me feel a little bit younger because you remember those games from the 90s where you're like, oh, my gosh, look at all these NFL dudes out here. It was awesome.
And then lastly, the most important thing, I can't forget or I'll get fussed at here, your upset pick this week, Bill Bender.
I'm going to take Air Force. I'm not sure. I think the spread's hovering around 11. Air Force Navy. So give me I missed last week. I know. I went big with Oklahoma State. They did cover, though.
Yeah.
They did cover that spread. Give me – I could go Vandy like most of your listeners, but I'm going to try this one. I know my total's low, but I got to start taking some swings here.
Bill, you're the best, man. As always, appreciate the heck out of you.
Hey, anytime. Thank you so much for talking to me. I'll talk to you next week. Maybe just text me if you're in town.
Yes, I certainly will. Bill Bender, the Sporting News. He's the best, and he joins us every Wednesday on the Fan Upstate, man. It means so much to have Bill on every Wednesday, a big-time national guest, and it doesn't get much better than that. Make sure you check out his work at the Sporting News. We're going to continue to ask for your upsets. Let's see. Z Breeze was the most recent, and let's see. We are now at 54 today. 54 upset picks. Tolos, can we get to 100 before the show is over today? We're looking for 200 upset picks on the week. We've got 54 down and about 146 to go the rest of the week. We'll continue the conversation next right here on the Fan Upstate. Well, no Diesel today or the rest of this week. He's still on vacation. He'll be back on Monday. I'm with you, Solo. You're stuck with me, Tolos. Hate it for you, but nothing you can do other than turn the radio off. Let's see here. I'm counting right now. Okay, we are at, sorry for the pause there. I was counting, making sure my numbers were right. We are at 54 upset picks on the day. We need to get to like probably close to probably close to 75. So my goal for this week is 200 upset picks. It would be the most ever. On this show, the show prior to this show, it'd be the most ever. 200 upset picks in 1 week. It's crazy, it's outlandish, but I think we can do it. Tolos, if you've already sent yours in, invite your family, friends to play along as well. We have a lot of Tolos whose wives play and have more points than their husbands, who are sports fans. Dan B on YouTube says, please announce and text Jeff R to redo his pick. Okay. All right. I will get on that, Dan, in the next segment. So Jeff R, if you're listening, I believe Dan B said you picked BYU over West Virginia. And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. It needs to be the other way around. Is that right? Tell me if I'm wrong there. But Jeff R, if you are listening, make sure you redo that correctly with the underdog on top. So you're picking, for those of you Tolos who have not participated before, you're picking an underdog to outright win the game. So for example, if you're looking at games this weekend and you like Florida State to win, Florida State is a 4.5 point underdog, which means Miami's the favorite. You would send in your name, Florida State plus 4.5 over Miami. That's simple. That's how you would do it. It's a rolling tally, a rolling total all season long. If you hit, that's how many points you are awarded. If you don't play, you're deducted 2. If you miss, you're deducted 1. Goodness gracious, I've been beating around the bush, but I've got to make an upset pick. I've beat around the bush long enough. I'm going to go Kansas State over Baylor plus 6.5. So not a big spread. So give me Kansas State. As I'm typing this in on the rundown, this is how you Tolos should text in, plus 6.5 over Baylor. I picked UCF over Kansas State last week, and Kansas State beat them pretty good. That game was never close. So I was actually impressed with Kansas State, and I don't know if a lot of you Tolos have done that before as well, where you kind of pick the opposite the next week like I did. But I was impressed with Kansas State. So I'll take them over Baylor. I know Baylor's a good team, but give me Kansas State plus 6.5 points over Baylor. And again, Jeff R, West Virginia is the underdog. So you would be picking West Virginia over BYU. Please make sure you get that right and correct it. If not, maybe you had the wrong game in mind, but just wanted to let you know. 844-326-3663 is the way you can submit your upset pick. Audio Blitz Sports Soundtrack. So much audio from the world of sports. Also, we'll dive into Brian Snitker. Are you kidding me? What huge news that was earlier today. We'll get into it next. On the YouTube stream, Dewey says the next person who doesn't do the upset picks correctly will be disqualified. Dewey laying down the hammer in hour number 4 of the show. Go get him, Dewey. Dewey's the Bulldog. Go get him, Dewey. Welcome into Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Wednesday. I almost drew a blank for a second and didn't know what day it was, but I do believe it's Wednesday. And I also believe tomorrow, Thursday, typically the day that comes after Wednesday, Tolos, I will be in Spartanburg tomorrow, live on location from 3 to 7 at Fifth Third Park. So every year, USC Upstate just puts on a heck of an event. If you're new to the area, USC Upstate is a local institution in Spartanburg over near Boiling Springs. And tomorrow is Morgan Square Madness. It's a lot of fun. Look, when I say they do an incredible job, last year they had a basketball court brought into downtown Spartanburg. That's where it's typically held, but this year it's going to be at Fifth Third Park. So I'll be there on location from 3 to 7. Would love to see you there as well, Tolos. Heck, if you get off work a little early, swing by. Don't have anything to do on a Thursday night. Swing by Fifth Third Park, and I'd love to talk to you, talk a little sports. You never know, you might get on the air for a few minutes. A jam-packed show coming your way tomorrow. Tolos, the Upset Picks Challenge continues at this very moment. You've got about 55 minutes or so remaining to get your upset pick in at 844-326-3663. Again, 844-FANFONE. That's 844-FAN-PHONE. Boston, New York, about to get underway. I've got it on the TV screen directly in front of me. Last night was an amazing postseason baseball game. I very much enjoyed it. I was a little bit envious that my team wasn't involved in the Atlanta Braves, but I got my wish today with Brian Snitker being moving to an advisory role. Let me get it right there. I literally said on the show yesterday, I'm hoping to see the news pretty soon, and there it was today. But Yankees, Red Sox coming up really, really soon. How about Chapman last night, man, for Boston? Coming in, and just doing a terrific job with the bases loaded, no outs, by the way. I don't think that right there will be talked about enough. If the Boston Red Sox go on to have a special postseason, you need to go back and circle that moment in wild card game number 1. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Do you realize sports fans out there, what kind of pressure that is? Late in the game, last inning, no outs, bases loaded. And for Chapman to get out of that jam last night, man, I mean, you talk about MVP caliber stuff. It doesn't get any better than that. It just doesn't. I love postseason baseball. Unfortunately, like I said, my team, they're at home right now, and they're looking for a new manager. But continue to get your upset picks in, 844-326-3663. Let's see, the last one I've got on the rundown was from Gamecocks Lee. Since then, I've got some new ones in. Since then, let's see here. Oh, man, how about this? Text line lighting up at 844-326-3663. Let's see. Where did I leave off? I am by myself today, so appreciate your patience, Tolos. Who's your daddy? Going with Vandy over Alabama. Make sure you put the point spread. There's no spread in there. Who's your daddy? So make sure you put the spread in there. Z Breeze, by the way, was the last one I had on the sheet. If you're listening to the show, Dan B. So we've got Who's Your Daddy on. You've got to put the spread, though, in terms of what the point spread is. Also, since then, Tolo Sean gets in. He says, upset picks challenge. Tolo Sean goes Vandy over Alabama. Boy, has that been a popular pick this weekend, plus 10.5 points. Good job there. Jeff R. Did get his corrected. Play-by-play JB gets his text in at 844-FANFONE. Let's see. Play-by-play JB going Kansas State plus 6.5 over Baylor. That was also my upset pick. So play-by-play, JB, you and I riding together on this one, riding with Kansas State. Let's go. Let's see if we can get that thing to cash in. Get that thing to cash in this weekend. Texter from the 803 says, Hoosier Daddy has never not seen the spread. Oh my goodness. Are we taking shots on the Hub on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line? I like it. I like the shot taken. Let's get to a little sports soundtrack for you on this Wednesday afternoon. Some audio gold. What does Diego Pavia think about the upcoming game in Tuscaloosa? He says, it'll be a good, fun time.
It will be a good, fun time. I've never played there. I think a few of the guys have been there, but this is what you come to the SEC for, big games like this. So we'll be really excited to go down there and check them out.
This is what you come in the SEC for. We'll be excited to go down there and check them out. Like they're going scouting Alabama. I don't know. I think the run comes to an end. I'm torn, man. I like Diego Pavia. I think Vanderbilt's a really good football team. But like I told Bill Bender, I just don't know if you tell me Vandy beats Bama 2 years in a row. Are you kidding me? There's no way that happens, right? I mean, there's just no way that happens. I don't know. I think it'll be a good game. This was hilarious audio. In case you missed it, George Pickens had never heard of a tie. George Pickens, if you don't know, one of my receivers from my Dallas Cowboys, had a really good game Sunday night against the Packers. Here's what George Pickens said after the game.
Out of all my years playing football, I have never heard of a tie or any of that. Honestly, I'm not sure. You guys probably know better than me if that's new or something, but I don't know how to feel, bro. I just, next week, next game, I guess. Like,
so the league change the rules to tie, even if that means you lose at the end of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fans, and including you people, want to see a winner and a loser. You see what I mean? So, but it's up to them, honestly.
That's right, George Pickens. You're right. You're 100% right. The fans, everybody deserves to see a winner and a loser, not a freaking tie. Are you kidding me? This was probably, in my opinion, the most fascinating audio of the weekend. I don't believe I saw this until Monday or Tuesday, but Ben Johnson did not seem thrilled with his team coming out of halftime. A weird interaction between the reporter and Ben Johnson here. Tolos, if you haven't heard this, I don't know what to make of this. But here it is.
Your offense has struggled to take advantage of those takeaways.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you tell them to get things going?
That it wasn't our brand of football. We're capable of a lot more, and so we're hitting the reset button here at halftime, and we're going to come back and establish our identity here in the second half.
You need to change what you're doing.
I don't know. You think so? We're going to be just fine.
Wow. I mean, are you kidding me? Did you hear that? I don't know if you've seen that audio or heard that audio yet or not, but one more time. That was weird. A weird tension-filled interaction one more time with Ben Johnson at halftime.
Offense has struggled to take advantage of those takeaways.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you tell them to get things going?
That it wasn't our brand of football. We're capable of a lot more, and so we're hitting the reset button here at halftime, and we're going to come back and establish our identity here in the second half.
You need to change what you're doing.
I don't know. You think so? We're going to be just fine.
I don't know. You think so? I mean, what a smart A, right? Are you kidding me? That's crazy. I had not heard of a halftime interaction like that. I mean, just too much tension there. By the way, C-Dubs got his upset pick in, taking Virginia plus 7.5 over Louisville. Good luck to you, C-Dubs, this weekend. Weird stuff there with Ben Johnson and the reporter at halftime. Let's see, the next piece of audio, we go to Lane Kiffin this week. What did Lane have to say? That could be a weekly segment, right?
Yeah, Winnie's going to be a great player here. Shoot, I'm not supposed to say that because then everybody will go buy him in the portal. Forgot I'm not supposed to do that anymore. I mean, he's just okay, you know? He really doesn't know his plays and stuff, so, you know, it'll be a couple years before he's good. No.
So Lane Kiffin's talking about one of these players, right? And it's wide receiver Winston Watkins. And quickly says, no, I can't be giving him praise because he might be in the portal. praise equals portal, right? One more time from Lane, Kevin.
Yeah, Winnie's going to be a great player here. Shoot, I'm not supposed to say that because then everybody will go buy him in the portal. Forgot I'm not supposed to do that anymore. I mean, he's just okay, you know?
He's just okay. Not there yet. You got to love it, man. Love or hate that guy. You got to admit, the dude is hilarious. How about Ty Simpson? His post-game speech, eerie similar to what Nick Saban used to sound like.
It's all about us, just like it's been all year long. All right, so you got to focus and not get the external factors have any factor on how you focus in this game. You want to focus on the things that have made us good all year long.
The game ain't about that. All right, this game is about us. All right, and us only. I said this the other day. All right, it's not about what they do. All right, it's about what we do.
I mean, are you kidding me? Is that not a spitting image in terms of Nick Saban? This was an old clip of him hyping his team up at halftime, and then the Ty Simpson, I guess the last great prodigy of Nick Saban, even got the ites in there. I mean, how weird. Ty Simpson, he's been listening to those Nick Saban speeches.
It's all about us, just like it's been all year long. All right, so you got to focus and not get the external factors have any factor on how you focus in this game. You want to focus on the things that have made us good all year long.
The game ain't about that. All right,
All right.
This game is about us. All right, and us only. I said this the other day. All right, it's not about what they do. All right, it's about what we do.
I mean, are you kidding me? Typical coaches speaks what it sounded like from Ty's. I like the guy, but it's not about what they do. It's about what we do. I mean, come on. Can you get any more coaches speak there? What about, let's go to Tua. Man, this was tough. That Tyreek Hill injury. This is what he thought about it.
You know, my thoughts are out to the guys that got hurt tonight. My thoughts and prayers are also with Reek. You know, but it's a great feeling that we feel tonight. Obviously, when you win, you know, that's in a way one of the best deodorants for what you could be going through. So I would say, you know, we're enjoying it right now, but we just got to find a way to continue to stack those wins in the win column.
Put that quote on the wall. Winning is the best deodorant for what you could be going through. How do you feel about that? Winning is the best deodorant for what you could be going through. That is, okay. I don't think he's wrong, but it is interesting. Yesterday, Glenn Powell was on this station with Rich Eisen and had high praise for one NFL quarterback.
It was nice to see Dak really show up.
Amazing last night.
I'm a huge Dak fan. I'm a huge Dak believer, and it's nice. It's nice when you see a guy really lead a team like that and show up in a way. I mean, the Packers are a hell of a team, and the Cowboys gave them a run.
Kind of sounded like he was taking shots at first, didn't it? It was nice of Dak to actually show up. Is that what he meant there? Oh, boy. I love this audio. This is audio gold right here from Pardon My Take. They are taking some serious shots at Dave Tepper. Panther fans, be warned. This might be tough to listen to, but it's pretty funny from Pardon My Take.
David Tepper has owned the Panthers for 120 games. How many has he won? 120 games. I'm going to say
17.
No.
What's your name?
I'm going to say 35. Close. He's 37-83 since owning the team, since buying the team. He's got to maybe look in the mirror, say, hey, we got to change something around.
I wonder how many back-to-back wins he said.
Probably not a lot. No.
I mean, are you kidding me? Just dogging David Tepper there. 37-83 since buying the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if that's really dogging the guy or not. I mean, it's true, right? It's kind of it is what it is. What do they say? Stats don't lie, and they don't lie. It has not been good for David Tepper since he bought the team a few years ago. Two more pieces of audio to get to in the sports soundtrack, but first let's go to the phone lines. Jersey Joe wants to weigh in, 844-326-3663. What's up, Jersey Joe?
Hello, Cole. How you doing today?
Fantastic. If I had an accent like yours, I'd be better.
That's right. Hey, I'm calling with my upset pick.
Oh, all right. Little. You want a little drum roll? All right, let's hear.
I am going with the University of Alabama Birmingham plus 6.5 over Army.
I love you had me. I didn't know where you were going at first. I'll be honest with you. UAB plus, did you say 6.5?
6.5, yeah.
Over Army. Why are you going with UAB over Army? Well, why, Joe?
Just something different.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel the same way. A lot of these upset picks, man, I'm asking myself, like, why am I picking them? I don't know. I don't know. I just, like you said, something different. Best of luck to you.
Some of the games are like, some of the spreads are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Some of the other spreads are like, so-so. And like, I saw this one. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go with this one.
What's the biggest point spread you've taken so far this year?
I think it was the Florida State game. I think it was. When
they beat Alabama.
When they were getting 13. I think when they were getting 13.5 against Alabama.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a big one. Well, best of luck to you, Jersey Joe. I need some luck. If you can give some luck to me, I have only hit once this year, so I'm in need of some luck as well.
Well, yeah, I've lost the last 3, so
I believe in you.
I could use some of myself.
I believe in you. Thanks for the call, Joe.
Thanks, buddy.
844-326-3663. Tolos, make sure you continue to get your upset picks in at 844-FANFONE. We'll have an In Case You Missed It with Brandon Leak coming up here shortly, but 2 more pieces of audio to get to. Let's see. Which one should we go to first here? Let's see. What do we have? Brian Snitker or Ben Johnson? Let's go to Ben Johnson. He was explaining that viral interview that I just had for you.
Care to address this? I know there's been some buzz about your halftime exchange. Can you relay how you interpreted that conversation?
Yeah, in the moment, I honestly didn't think too much of it. I'm kind of in game mode. But then when I look back at it, I am a little bit disappointed with what that looks like. I didn't hear very well, and that's not an excuse.
Oh my gosh!
When I thought I heard that it was not a question, but that I needed to make some changes, I didn't take that very well. So I'll do a better job with those going forward.
He thought she was telling him to make some changes. And then last piece of audio, Brian Snitker on his relationship with the Atlanta Braves.
I never thought I'd manage one day in the major leagues, let alone 10 years. I never thought I'd hoist a trophy. Or be around a group of guys that, that makes this so special. Because, it's about the players. And we've been fortunate here to have probably the greatest group of players, coaches, the whole building is, and I said this after we won the World, it literally takes a whole building to do something special. And I've been blessed to be around great people within the Atlanta Braves organization. Everybody in that clubhouse, the player, it's about the players. God, the relationships and the friendships that I'll have the rest of my life for that group or the players. And it's so special.
A little bit bittersweet for Brian Snitker after the big news today. Speaking of Brian Snitker, we had a fantastic conversation with home team Brandon Leak of 680 The Fan earlier in the show today. He was awesome. And in case you missed it, we'll have it for you next, right here on the Fan Upstate.